Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. Desperate to save his dying wife, Matt turns to a bag, an ancient relic with dark magic. The cure demands a chilling ritual and strict rules. As his wife heals, Matt's sanity unravels, facing terrifying consequences. Yes, folks, this is my raw reaction review for Bag of Lies. Just want to start this review off by thanking the folks over at Dread for sending over a copy of this film for me to check out and get a review out to you guys. And I just want to start things off by saying that with a film called Bag of Lies, the only thing that I would consider a bag of lies here is this trailer. I do not want to just come out right out of the gate swinging like this, but I kind of have to because I'm not going to lie. The trailer to this film is not great. It does not paint a pretty picture. It looks really choppy. I don't understand who put that together or how they thought that was going to be a solid way to market the film. It feels really slapped together, and I was sorely misrepresented on what this film's potential was because yeah, I found myself actually really being interested and liking a lot of Bag of Lies. Now, it's not a perfect film by any means, but yeah, that trailer does not do this film justice. So if you have seen that and you are just wondering, man, does this movie look like crap? Let me tell you, it's not that bad. And let me start off with some positives for this film. And I gotta say, the general concept that we're dealing with here is pretty unique. It's something that I am not super familiar with. I don't think there's a whole lot of films involving ancient relics, kind of dark magic within this kind of burlap sack. And you make essentially a sacrifice to said sack, and you get to make a wish on it. And I thought that was really unique and cool. And I really found myself being invested in trying to figure out what exactly was going on within the sack. And one of the things that I do appreciate about this film is that it does a really great job of stringing you along this journey to try to find out what this relic is, this again dark magic. They don't just come right out and tell you. And I think that that is probably one of the biggest strengths of the movie because I could see it offering a bit more rewatch value because I'm sure there are little hints and things that I missed, especially after getting a lot of the resolution in the third act. My next positive has to go to the cast here. I think that Patrick Taft, our lead, he does a really solid job kind of carrying a lot of the weight for this film. It deals with, of course, a man whose wife is dying from cancer, and you can really see the tone and the kind of toll that this whole scenario is taking upon him, and they do a really great job of kind of presenting that through the tones of the film, but also his performance. I also really thought that Brandy Botkin did a great job as well. She plays his wife. And yeah, it's really quite unfortunate what these two are going through, but they do a really good job of selling their relationship and selling kind of this history. They have these two cute little pet names for each other, and honestly, I bought them as a couple, and I think that that's one of the strongest strengths you can kind of throw at a film like this when they're really trying their best to kind of, sell you on the fact that yes, these are two people who love each other, who've been through a lot, and I bought that 100%. I also got to say that there's a character who is essentially, I don't want to give away his relation, but it's played by the actor John Wells. He's also really good in this. I think that he's a really great moral center for our main character. And I thought that the kind of dynamic between the three of them was really believable. I really thought that this was a realistic depiction of just what it's like to kind of deal with a loved one or someone in your family who is dealing with a loved one who has a terminal illness like this. It was really convincing stuff, and I do have to give them all the props in the world for honestly bringing really great performances. Now, with this being a low budget feature, there's not a lot of locations in this, but I think for what they do, the director really has an eye for the camera, and he understands exactly how to get the most out of said locations. Because I really think that there is, again, this really great sense of grief in the air in this film. And I do think there are some interesting shots. There are some interesting setups with the way that it's filmed. They kind of show you some things, and then they don't really come into play until later. And I thought that that was all really well done. So I do have to give some credit to the director here. That is David James. I thought that he's got a really strong eye here. This is his directorial debut, and I could really see some potential. I really think that the dude understands horror and he understands how to shoot it really well, and just how to, again, capture some pretty strong performances. Now, getting into some of my dislikes for the film. Overall, I gotta say, I think that this movie has a bit of a pacing problem. It's only an hour and 30 some odd minutes, and it really does drag a lot in that middle section where we're kind of just going from jump scare to jump scare, which is another problem I have with this, where the scares are not all that unique. Now, there's one or two in here that are really cool, and I really like the way that they set them up, but there are so many in here that are honestly a tad laughable. There are some things that they present that I just can't get the movie smile out of my head with just how these characters or this entity is kind of harassing certain people. And I really think that at the end of the day, there could have been some more creativity there. I understand it is small budget, and I understand that there's probably not a whole lot that they could get away with, but I think they pull off a couple of them here that are really unique and interesting. Where it kind of falls flat for me, I think, is just in the construction of these scares. They just feel very basic. There's a couple of twists and turns in this that you kind of are supposed to be like, oh wow, this is, I can't believe that's it. Like the character has this revolution at some point, or a resolution of just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is what happened. But you as an audience member, you can see it from 3 miles away. You're just sitting there like, yep, that's not what you think it is, buddy. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. And it does leave you kind of, sitting there a little bit bored in the middle of this. But again, I think that the idea here is really strong. And I think that the way that they were able to execute it with kind of the resources they had shows a lot of potential. And I think that that goes a long way, because I'm a big concept person. If you can really draw me in with something strong, I could easily see this film being like remade at some point down the line, something like a Malum Last Shift situation. Because again, I think that that concept of this relic, this bag of lies per se, is really awesome, and I would love to see it expanded upon, maybe in a sequel, or maybe something like I said, a remake down the road. Something that does carry over from the trailer, unfortunately, is the sound design in this does have some issues. I really don't see it being that noticeable in some places, but when it is noticeable, it's extremely noticeable. There are certain things that just sound so out of place, and I get it, again, it's budgetary, but it just sucks you right out of the movie because you're just listening to it and it's like, this is not at all convincing. This feels very one-sided. It feels very much like they put it in post. I think with a little bit more integration, a little bit more detail in the exact sound design. It's all about putting small, minute things that, you may not notice that you're hearing, but your eyes will, and your brain will tick it off. And I think that that's really where it was lacking in some spots. And I have to admit that the score was not very impressive for this movie. I don't think there's a whole lot there, but the stuff that is there, I did really feel like it was something kind of stock music-y in some spots. It felt like they kind of bought it off of like an Artlist or an Emotion Array kind of setting. And I think for films that are extremely like short films and stuff, you can get away with that a little bit more. But when it comes to this that has a little bit more money behind it, I know it's not the biggest film in the world when it comes to budget, but I just think there could have been a little bit more oomph, a little bit more originality when it came to the music. So overall, where do I sit with Bag of Lies? Well, I'm going to give this worth a watch. I think that there's a lot to like here. It's not a perfect film by any means, but again, for me going in with such low expectations because of that trailer, I found myself walking away saying, this was not bad. This was definitely an interesting concept, some really great acting. It has its issues, like I said, especially when it comes to the sound and when it comes to those scares. They're not the most original, but there are a lot of things to like here and a lot of potential on the horizon, especially for the director David James. I think that they have some really good stuff on display here. And I think with a little bit more time, a little bit more money, I think they could really give us something in the future here that might really stand out. I see the potential there. Do I think this is going to be for everybody? No, I think that it does tend to lean a little bit more on the slower side, which you guys know we are no stranger to on this channel. We really like our slow burns. But I think that the fact that it was able to keep me engaged and keep me moving and just keep me interested in getting to that third act and really getting some answers, and the fact that it still leaves you lingering, wondering what exactly is this bag of lies. It's good. It's just the right amount of pondering that I can walk away happy with. I don't think everybody's going to walk away happy with that, but I definitely liked it. So, yeah, I would say worth a watch. I definitely think that if you're going to find it on streaming somewhere, especially once it starts popping up on some of these services, you can check it out. It comes out today, so it's definitely available on VOD. You can find this thing, I think, on Apple and definitely Dread. But yeah, no, this was definitely a worth the watch. I don't have really much else to say other than that. So I guess that's everything here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell, and remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast.